Starting from ClickHouse 25.7, we have experimental support for writing to Apache Iceberg. So I'm going to run this PySpark command here, and it's going to be writing our warehouse to temp warehouse. And once that's launched, we can create ourselves a namespace called sandbox.quickstart. We're going to be importing some New York taxis data. So you can see we've got a couple of Parquet files here. And we'll first create a table called taxi dataset. And we'll say using Iceberg, and then we're going to select from the first one of those Parquet files. That'll take a few seconds to run, and then once it has, we can call spark.table, pass in the name of the table and describe, and it'll show us all the fields that we've got in the table. We can then update it to say count instead of describe to get the number of rows that are in our table. So you can see it's just over 3 million. Let's write a query to see what the popular passenger counts are in the dataset, and you see it comes back. So mostly, there's a few nulls. There's some with 0, presumably that's a data error, but then it's mostly one passenger, and you can see there's only one journey where there was a passenger count of 9. If we then come across to my other tab, we can call the tree command on that warehouse folder, and you can see this is the structure of the folder, which contains our Iceberg table. Let's now launch ClickHouse, and we're going to create ourselves a table called taxi dataset. It's going to use the Iceberg local table engine, and then we're going to point it at the taxi dataset from the path on my computer. And then we can query it just like any other ClickHouse table. So we'll get back one row, and let's scroll up a little bit, and you can see we've got the data for one of the rows. We've got all the different fields that are in the taxis dataset and their corresponding values. To do writes, we need to enable this flag, allow experimental insert into Iceberg. So we'll set that to 1. And then we can insert into taxi dataset, select start, and we'll read from the second Parquet file that we saw earlier. And you can see that goes off, and pretty quickly we've got another 3 million rows ingested. Let's do a count from the taxi dataset, and you can see we've got just under 6 million rows. I'm going to adjust the query slightly so that we get back only the rows where the tip amount was more than $5, and there were 1 million of those. Now, we've also got a system table called System Iceberg History, which shows the history of the snapshots. And you can see we've got 2. So the first one is when we wrote to the table from PySpark, and then the second one is when we wrote to the table from ClickHouse. And another cool thing we can do is we can do time travel queries. So we can kind of go back to a particular snapshot and say, tell me what was the results if we run it relative to that snapshot. So we're going to do the first one with the snapshot ID 112 and so on. And if we take that query and use settings Iceberg snapshot ID, we'll paste in our snapshot ID. And then you can see this time there's only 500,000 records. If you want to see more on Apache Iceberg, you'll want to check out this video next.